Ladies and gentlemen, boy, this wind is blowing fiercely out here today. Last week, I did a story on Wisconsin. They allowed people to stand in long lines and vote. The first 7 coronavirus cases were reported between workers and people that came out to vote. Well, it sure don't take long for COVID-19 to show up because now it is up to 52 people. But this country seems to think they will successfully open businesses and everything's just going to flow just, nicely, no problems. And you can't even get through voting without anything cropping up. So this came out on ABC News. 52 who worked or voted in Wisconsin's election have COVID-19. Now, the governor was the one that allowed this. There were people that advised him not to do this. He moved forward anyway, and this is the end result. More than 50 people who voted in person or worked at the polls during Wisconsin's presidential primary this month have tested positive for COVID-19, according to the latest count by state health officials tracking the impact of holding the election in the middle of the pandemic. And you know what the sad part is? People like your governor is not going to take responsibility for nothing. I think some of y'all are just bred and conditioned to be that way. It remains unclear how many, if any, of those people contracted the coronavirus at the polls, and health officials are still collecting, testing, and tracing information. Now, you think about that. It's 52 people. They probably went home to their families, been around people over these past few weeks. It's no telling how many people they've passed this on to. The vast majority of the cases tied to the election have already likely come to the surface, said Andrea Palm, the State Department of Health Services Secretary, on Wednesday. The number come as states across the country are struggling with how to hold off fair and safe elections during the coronavirus outbreak. Some states, including Ohio, on Tuesday moved to virtually all mail elections, closing nearly all polling places. Others have just urged voters to cast absentee ballots while keeping in person voting an option, which I don't think it should ever be an option. This is not the time for that. Wisconsin, whose April 7th primary became a symbol of the chaos, and now the virus can wreak havoc on democracy. Plans to hold another round of in-person voting on May 12th, this time for special election to fill vacant congressional district seats. Nebraska will also have a statewide primaries on that same day. Wisconsin Democratic Governor Tony Evers, concerned about the spike in virus cases, tried to change the April 7th election so that it would be conducted entirely by mail, but he was blocked by the Republican led legislature and conservative Wisconsin Supreme Court. You know, the problem is people don't have any patience. They want everything in an instant. And they don't realize in some cases you really should hold off until a lot of this die down. But because there is a lack of patience among the people in America, this thing ain't going nowhere. It's not going anywhere. Now, both parties are watching the infection count closely. Republicans say The relatively low number of potential cases so far proves the warning that the election would result in a spike in cases were overblown. Well, you don't know that. You don't know who those 52 came in contact and they got it. Y'all don't test enough people to even come to that kind of assumption that this Republican Party is saying. But you stay out there and you get it. Statewide, there have been more than 6,500 confirmed cases and 308 deaths since the outbreak began. Tracking precisely how many cases were contracted at the polls is impossible. That's right. So, how do you come out with a statement saying that this is relatively low? You didn't test nobody. How many people at that polling place did you actually test? Then there's no way you can make a statement like that and it would be factual. There's no way. Okay. As many of the infected reported multiple ways they could have been exposed, health officials say the number does not account for those who do not show symptoms and are not tested. Exactly. Exactly. The positive cases were people who tested positive within the 2 weeks after the election, the typical window for showing symptoms after exposure. After May 7th, the state will stop asking people who tested positive for the virus whether they were at the polls a month earlier because of how much time has passed. Evers has made no move to alter the special election, which is scheduled to occur while a stay at home order is still in effect. Hey, y'all, give your medical bills to these Republicans that made the decision in the Supreme Court there in Wisconsin. Mail them your medical bills. The order is scheduled to run until May 26, but Republicans have asked the state Supreme Court to block it. Evers said Wednesday that he was confident the election could be held in a safe way, although voters had to wait in long lines on April 7th primary in Milwaukee. That likely won't happen with the May 12th special congressional election. Yeah, because not that many people are interested in voting. Where the largest city in the 7th congressional district in Wausau, which is home to about 40,000 people, that House race is the only one on the ballot, unlike this month's election, which featured the presidential primary and a state Supreme Court race. Election clerks in the district have said they're ready for the election after they've managed to make it through this month's election despite the difficulties posed by the pandemic. There's also a push to encourage absentee voting. About 71% of all voters in April 7th election cast absentee ballots. The 7th congressional district covers all or parts of 26 northern and northwestern Wisconsin counties and is the state's largest congressional district geographically. The race pits Democrat Tricia Zunker, president of Wausau School Board, against Republican State Senator Tom Tiffany, who has been endorsed by President Donald Trump. Trump carried the heaviest Republican district by 20% points in 2016. I tell you what, you got to be a fool to show up at these polls and vote. You are taking your life in your hands. There is nobody out here that is worth dying, over. Not one politician is worth it, in my opinion. So I don't know why y'all have to go out so badly during this time and run the risk of getting COVID-19. And I'm telling you, it's far more than 52 people. Without testing, you don't know how many people got it right now. You just don't know. And you have to also consider the fact that multiple people use the same voting machine at these locations. It's not like they switch them out for new machine, switch out the machines each time a person comes up and vote. I bet you that machine sat there all day and multiple people came in and touched that very same machine. And now you got 52. If they publish another story next week, I wouldn't be surprised if that number doubles. But y'all, please tell me what you think. I still say, they want to move forward with another in-person election in May. Hey, they can have at it. I sure wouldn't show up at any of these polls. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.